Nobody saw it coming. Not after everything Rasheeda and Kirk had survived. Not after years of loyalty, heartbreak, and public humiliation that played out like a soap opera for the world to see. But when the cameras rolled on what was supposed to be a routine reunion episode, the entire set froze. The audience gasped. And in that one chaotic moment, it became clear that this wasn't just another love and hip-hop episode, it was the end of an era. It started with tension thick enough to slice through. Rasheeda walked in wearing all white, calm but unreadable, her eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. Kirk was already on set, tapping his fingers on the table, avoiding eye contact. The producers whispered nervously off camera. Something about the energy felt dangerous, like a storm gathering behind a smile. Then came the surprise guests. First, Jasmine, the woman who once shattered Rasheeda's marriage, appeared from behind the stage curtain. The crowd erupted in disbelief. You could hear the murmurs ripple through the studio. There's no way. They didn't just bring her out. What is happening right now? Rasheeda's jaw tightened. But she didn't flinch. She sat perfectly still, every second of silence burning heavier than any scream. But the producers weren't done yet. The host announced there was one more person joining the panel. And when K. Michelle strutted in, unapologetic and smirking, even the crew couldn't hide their shock. The cameras zoomed in on Rasheeda, who muttered something under her breath, something the microphones barely caught. "They think this is a game," she said, her voice low, trembling between fury and control. From that moment, the tension cracked open like glass. Jasmine started talking first, her voice shaking as she claimed that Kirk's new business deal wasn't just professional. K. Michelle laughed, called it reality TV at its finest, and then leaned forward with a line that changed everything. "Baby, Kirk ain't signing no deal, he's starting a new era, and Rasheeda ain't part of it." The room exploded. Fans watching live on the networks, stream flooded social media with fire emojis and disbelief. "Rasheeda better not go out like this. This is wild, Kirk can't be serious. What deal? What's Jasmine got to do with it?" The online chaos mirrored the storm brewing on stage. And then, the moment that no one will ever forget, Rasheeda stood up, removed her microphone, and said 5 words that silenced the crowd. "I'm done with this show." The audience gasped. The host tried to speak, but she was already walking off set. Kirk shouted after her. Jasmine's eyes darted to the producers, and K. Michelle laughed like she'd seen it all before. But here's the part no one saw coming: Rasheeda's exit wasn't the end. Because only hours later, leaked footage revealed Kirk signing a new deal. Sitting right beside Jasmine and K. Michelle, smiling like nothing had happened. Fans were left spinning, wondering if it was betrayal, business, or something much deeper. And tonight, we're breaking it all down: the twist that ended one legacy and launched another. What really happened on that set? Why did Rasheeda walk away? And what's the truth behind Kirk's shocking new deal? Grab your popcorn, because this story is about to rewrite everything you thought you knew about loyalty, love, and the price of fame. The moment Rasheeda walked off that set, you could feel something inside the room collapse. The crew froze. Kirk sat back in his chair like a man who just realized the cameras had caught his worst nightmare. Jasmine looked around nervously, whispering to one of the producers. And K. Michelle just smiled, that slow, knowing smile that always means trouble. The studio lights kept rolling. The live feed didn't cut. And for the first time in years, the audience saw the truth behind the show's polished chaos. This wasn't scripted anymore. This was raw. As Rasheeda's heels clicked down the hallway, a camera followed her, catching every breath, every muttered word under her breath. She said she was done, but her voice cracked halfway through. There was anger, yes, but also heartbreak. The kind that doesn't come from television ratings, it comes from years of being blindsided by the same man you kept forgiving. She stopped by the exit door, hands shaking, and whispered, "I gave him everything." Then she pushed it open and disappeared into the dark parking lot. Back on set, Kirk rubbed his face, trying to decide whether to chase her or sit still. The producers hovered, whispering to each other about contracts, footage rights, and what this could mean for the next season. Jasmine kept fidgeting with her bracelet, saying she didn't know Rasheeda would be that upset. K. Michelle rolled her eyes and said, "Girl, please. You knew exactly what you walked into." Jasmine's voice rose, soft but defensive. "No. I came here to clear things up, not to blow it up like this." K. Michelle laughed again, leaning back in her chair. "You don't show up on live TV sitting next to a man's wife unless you're ready to light a fire." Outside, Rasheeda sat in her car, breathing fast, scrolling through her phone as messages poured in. Texts from family, calls from friends, and social media exploding with hashtag Team Rasheeda was trending before she even left the parking lot. Fans were furious, Some demanded she get her own spin-off. Others said they'd never forgive Kirk if the rumors were true. And underneath all the noise, Rasheeda's eyes stopped on one text that made her freeze. It was from Kirk. It just said, "Please don't make me the enemy." She stared at it for a long time, then tossed the phone aside. Meanwhile, inside the studio, Kirk finally stood up. His voice came out low, tired. "Y'all got what you wanted. Hope you're happy." Jasmine looked at him, her eyes wide. "Kirk, I swear, I didn't know they'd do this." He turned toward her slowly, his jaw tightening. "You didn't know. Jasmine, you've been doing interviews for weeks talking about this so-called new chapter. You knew." She shook her head, her voice breaking. "It's business. That's all it was supposed to be." Michelle smirked. "Business? Huh, that's what they all say before the mess hits the blogs." The producers signaled to keep the cameras rolling. There was too much heat to waste. Kirk grabbed his jacket and said, "I'm out too." But before he could leave, Jasmine reached out and caught his arm. "Please, you can't just let her walk away like that." Kirk pulled back slightly, then sighed. "She'd been walking away from me for years. Maybe this time she means it." The door closed behind him, and the set fell silent. Michelle whispered something to a producer, something about how this was going to break the internet, and she wasn't wrong. By the time Kirk reached the parking lot, clips of Rasheeda's exit were already flooding social media. The clip of her removing her mic had millions of views within the hour. Hashtags multiplied. Hashtag Rasheeda leaves. Hashtag Kirk betrayal. Hashtag Jasmine again. It was everywhere. Later that night, Kirk drove home alone. The house felt too quiet. Family photos lined the hallway, each one a reminder of how much history they shared. He poured himself a drink, sat at the kitchen counter, and stared into space. His phone buzzed again, messages from producers, from his manager, from Jasmine. He ignored them all. Then came one from an unknown number, a contract offer from Netflix. The message said, "Confirmed tomorrow. Production begins in 30 days. He stared at it in disbelief. He hadn't expected it to leak this early. This was supposed to be private, just a development deal for a docuseries about rebuilding his image. But the timing couldn't have been worse. Now it looked like betrayal. While Kirk wrestled with what to do next, Jasmine was on the phone with her friend, pacing her apartment. Her voice was shaky. "They made it look like I'm the villain again. I can't keep doing this." Her friend tried to calm her down, but Jasmine was panicking. The deal wasn't supposed to come out like that. Kirk said it was about music, not reality TV. Now everyone thinks I'm part of his new show. She paused, listening to her friend on the other end. "No, I'm not lying." Michelle was just stirring things up like she always does. And sure enough, Michelle was live on Instagram that night, sipping wine, laughing into the camera. "Baby, I told y'all, that man always got a plan. Don't shoot the messenger. Just stay tuned." Within minutes, her live had over 100,000 viewers. Comments poured in, demanding answers, tagging Kirk and Rasheeda, asking if Jasmine was really signing something with him. Michelle winked at the screen. "Oh, it's bigger than y'all think." Across town, Rasheeda sat in her dressing room, makeup half wiped, scrolling through the chaos online. Her heart felt heavy, not from embarrassment, but from exhaustion. She had fought so long to keep her family together, and now it was unraveling in front of millions. Her phone buzzed again, this time from her mother. "Baby, come home. Don't deal with this alone." Rasheeda smiled faintly. "I'm okay, Mama, just tired." Her mother's voice softened. "You don't have to be strong all the time." Rasheeda didn't reply. She just looked at her reflection in the mirror, eyes glassy, and whispered, "Then who would I be?" The next morning, the blogs exploded again. Someone had leaked a blurry video of Kirk meeting Jasmine and Michelle at a downtown restaurant. The caption read, "New Netflix deal confirmed." The footage showed them laughing, clinking glasses, and signing what looked like papers. It was grainy, but enough to ignite chaos. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. "He replaced Rasheeda already. Kirk, Jasmine, and Michelle. That's wild. Netflix really trying to cash in on this mess." Rasheeda woke up to her phone vibrating non-stop. She saw the video, stared at it for a few seconds, then threw her blanket off and got up. She dialed Kirk's number. No answer. She tried again. Voicemail. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You could have told me. After everything, you owed me that." She hung up, grabbed her bag, and left. The cameras followed her discreetly, knowing something big was coming. Back at the restaurant, Kirk didn't know the video had already gone viral. Jasmine sat across from him, quiet eyes on her phone. "It's out," she said softly. Kirk frowned. "What's out?" She turned the screen toward him. He watched the video loop, his stomach tightening. Damn it. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his forehead. I told them to keep it under wraps. Michelle laughed from the other end of the table. Baby, nothing stays under wraps when you're messy. This is showbiz. Kirk shot her a look. This ain't no game to me. She shrugged. It is now. You just made it one. He left the restaurant frustrated, ignoring the cameras parked outside. Jasmine followed him to his car. Kirk, what are we gonna do? He looked at her, voice low. Nothing. Let them talk. Jasmine shook her head. They'll drag us for this. They'll say, I'm the reason your marriage ended again. Kirk sighed. They already said that years ago. What's one more headline? She didn't answer, just stood there, arms folded, watching him drive away. Meanwhile, back at Rasheeda's boutique, the staff tried to act normal, but the tension was impossible to hide. Customers came in whispering, pretending to browse while secretly recording. One asked if Rasheeda would still be filming next season. Another asked if the Netflix deal was real. Rasheeda smiled politely, said she couldn't talk about it, and retreated to the back room. Once alone, she exhaled deeply, leaning against the wall. They really moved on that fast, she whispered. Hours later, she got a call from production. They wanted her to come back for a private sit-down to clarify the situation before it spun out of control. She hesitated but agreed. When she arrived, the crew looked uneasy, like they knew this could explode even more. The interviewer asked, Rasheeda, do you feel betrayed? She paused, eyes glistening, and said, I feel like I'm watching strangers play versions of my life that don't belong to me anymore. The room went quiet. So no, I don't feel betrayed. I feel free. But freedom, for Rasheeda, didn't mean peace. Outside the studio, fans screamed her name, cameras flashed, and questions flew from every direction. Are you done with Kirk? Are you doing your own show? Is the Netflix deal real? She smiled faintly, said nothing, and walked to her car. But inside, something had shifted. This wasn't the end, it was the start of a war she didn't plan to lose. And as she drove away, a notification flashed on her phone. A new statement from Kirk had just been posted online. It read, No one quit. We're just starting something new. Stay tuned. Rasheeda stared at the screen in disbelief as the city lights blurred outside her window. She whispered to herself, starting something new. Without me. Her grip tightened on the steering wheel. The story wasn't over. Not even close. And that's where the next storm began. The story wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, social media looked like a battlefield. Everyone had an opinion, and every opinion was loud. Blogs were posting screenshots, podcasts were going live, and every gossip page had the same headline, Rasheeda blindsided as Kirk signs Netflix deal with Jasmine and Michelle. The internet had officially picked sides. Some people said Kirk was just chasing business. Others said Jasmine had been waiting for this moment all along. And a few said what everyone was secretly thinking, that this time, Rasheeda might not forgive him. While the world speculated, Rasheeda was sitting in her kitchen, staring at her coffee going cold. Her phone buzzed nonstop, but she didn't touch it. She was tired of hearing what people thought. She was tired of pretending she was fine. The only sound in the house was the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional ping of another notification. Finally, she sighed and said softly, Let them talk. I'm done explaining myself. But deep down, she knew she wasn't done at all. Across town, Kirk was sitting in a sleek meeting room with his new management team. Papers were spread out in front of him, contracts that could change everything. A Netflix executive sat across the table, all smiles. Kirk, this is a big opportunity. You'll have creative control. We're thinking a docuseries about redemption, rebuilding, and second chances. Kirk nodded slowly. I want it to be real. No fake drama. No nonsense. The executive smiled politely. Of course. Real sells best. Jasmine sat beside Kirk, quiet, flipping through her copy of the contract. She didn't look at him, just kept her eyes on the fine print. When the meeting ended, Kirk said, You good? She nodded. Yeah. Just trying to process all this? He looked at her carefully. You know this is gonna get ugly before it gets better, right? She whispered. It already has. Outside the building, paparazzi were waiting. Flashes went off as Kirk and Jasmine walked to their cars. Someone shouted, Kirk, where's Rasheeda? Another voice yelled, Jasmine, are you replacing her? Jasmine kept her head down, but Kirk stopped for a second and said, No one's replacing anybody. The clips hit the internet minutes later. By noon, the hashtag replacing Rasheeda was trending number 1. Nothing he said mattered anymore. The narrative had already been written by the crowd. That evening, Michelle went live again, grinning into her phone. Oh baby, they out here signing papers and smiling for the cameras while the queen herself is at home packing her bags. She laughed, sipping her drink. Let's not act like we didn't see this coming. Kirk's been trying to reinvent himself for years. Jasmine been hanging around looking for a headline. And now Netflix said, why not give the people what they want? Comments poured in so fast they blurred across the screen. Spill the tea. Is it true Jasmine and Kirk are dating again? Where's Rasheeda in all this? Michelle leaned closer to the camera. Where's Rasheeda? She's doing what strong women do. She's moving in silence. And silence is dangerous. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's phone buzzed again this time. A call from her best friend. Girl, you need to see what's online right now. Rasheeda sighed. I've seen enough. No, this is different. They got videos of Kirk and Jasmine together again. And Michelle talking crazy like she knows everything. Rasheeda rubbed her forehead. Let her talk. I'm not feeding this circus. So you're just gonna stay quiet? Her friend asked. For now, Rasheeda said softly. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than a post. But staying quiet didn't stop the storm. 2 days later, a leaked voicemail surfaced online. The voice sounded like Kirk's, angry, defensive, and tired. I'm not doing this again. Jasmine, I told you to keep things professional. Another voice, supposedly Jasmine's, shot back. You can't control what people say, Kirk. Maybe you should worry about your wife instead. The clip went viral instantly. It was messy, half audio, half mystery, but it was enough to keep everyone talking. Fans demanded answers. The show's producers saw dollar signs. Netflix executives called Kirk's team, warning him that the drama might affect production. Kirk just sighed. Too late. They already made their minds up. In the middle of the chaos, Rasheeda decided to do something she hadn't done in months. She went live. No filters, no background music, just her, sitting in her living room. Her voice was calm, but firm. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been sending love. I appreciate it. But please, stop attacking people on my behalf. I'm not a victim. I'm not broken. I'm just done being part of a story that isn't mine anymore. Comments flooded the screen, heart emojis, prayers, and words of support. She smiled faintly. I don't know what's next, but I know what's over. She ended the live quietly, leaving millions of viewers stunned. In less than an hour, clips of her live had been viewed over 10 million times. Her name trended worldwide. She didn't say much, but she didn't have to. Her silence had finally spoken. That same night, Kirk watched her live from his phone. He didn't move for several minutes after it ended. Jasmine texted him, asking if he was okay. He didn't reply. He just stared out the window, wondering when everything had become so unrecognizable. His reflection in the glass looked tired. Older, he whispered to himself. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's over. But then his phone buzzed again, a notification from Netflix. They had confirmed the project publicly, tagging him, Jasmine, and Michelle in the announcement. The caption read, New beginnings, same city, filming starts soon. And just like that, there was no turning back. The internet went wild again. Rasheeda who? One user wrote, Kirk really moved on quick. Another said, I can't believe Jasmine and Michelle are working together. The buzz grew so big that even mainstream media outlets started covering it. Morning talk shows debated whether Rasheeda had been pushed out or if she walked away. Gossip hosts speculated that the Netflix deal had been in motion long before the reunion episode. One headline summed it up perfectly. Rasheeda's exit wasn't an accident, it was a setup. 3 days later, Kirk and Jasmine showed up at a recording studio to film promotional material for the show. Michelle was already there, laughing with the crew. As soon as Jasmine walked in, the tension was thick. Michelle looked her up and down and said, So this the new power team? Jasmine smiled tightly. I'm just here to work. Kirk stepped between them. We all are. Let's keep it professional. But Michelle wasn't done. Professional? Baby, this is reality. Ain't nothing professional about airing your dirty laundry for a check. Kirk shot her a cold look. You say that like you don't do it too. She grinned. Difference is, I don't pretend it's about business. The cameras caught every word. Producers whispered excitedly behind their monitors. This was gold. Jasmine rolled her eyes, grabbed her bag, and muttered, I don't need this. Kirk followed her out, leaving Michelle laughing behind them. Go on then, she called out. The mess just started. Outside, Jasmine turned to Kirk, voice shaking. I can't do this. They're setting me up again. Kirk rubbed his temples. You think walking away will fix it? She snapped. It's not about fixing it. It's about dignity. You remember what that is? He stared at her for a moment, then said quietly, yeah, I used to. She softened for a second, but then her phone buzzed. Another headline. Another rumor. She turned the screen toward him. They're saying we're living together now. Kirk laughed bitterly. Guess we might as well at this point. By the next morning, paparazzi were outside both their homes. Kirk's neighbors complained about camera crews blocking the street. Jasmine's apartment building had reporters camping in cars. Rasheeda, meanwhile, had vanished from public view entirely. Her boutique was closed for renovation. Her social media was silent. Her fans grew anxious. Every day, new rumors popped up. She was moving to Atlanta permanently. She was filming a secret project. She was suing Kirk. No one knew the truth. And that mystery only made her name bigger. Then, suddenly, one post changed everything. A blurry photo of Rasheeda standing outside a film studio in Los Angeles, smiling beside a well-known TV producer. The caption simply read, "Big things coming." Fans went crazy. Was she starting her own show? Was she signing a deal to compete with Kirk's Netflix project? Within hours, the post had millions of likes and thousands of comments. Kirk saw it too. He stared at it, expression unreadable. So that's how it is, he muttered. Later that day, he called Jasmine. We're gonna have to address this. She hesitated. Address what? Her moving on? He shook his head. No. The narrative. People think we did her wrong. We gotta control the story before it controls us. Jasmine frowned. And how do we do that? He exhaled slowly. By telling our truth, even if nobody believes it. And so the producers set up a special interview. Kirk, Jasmine, and Michelle, sitting side by side, facing the cameras. The interviewer wasted no time. Kirk, people say you betrayed Rasheeda for fame. What do you have to say to that? Kirk looked straight into the lens. I didn't betray anyone. I made a choice to move forward. That's all. Jasmine added quietly. People love to see a woman as the problem. I didn't take anything from anyone. I just showed up. Michelle smirked. Baby, the problem ain't showing up. It's showing up with him. Everyone laughed awkwardly. Kirk turned toward her. You always got something slick to say. She smiled. That's why I'm still booked. The interview aired that night. And once again, the internet exploded. Half the audience thought Kirk was lying. The other half thought Jasmine was being used. And a small but loud group started speculating that Rasheeda's new project was actually about exposing the entire situation. No one had proof, but that didn't matter. In the world of reality television, the rumor is always louder than the truth. Meanwhile, Rasheeda was quietly filming in California. Long days, early mornings, and a crew that kept everything under tight wraps. She didn't confirm anything publicly, but one insider leaked that her project was a powerful story about independence, strength, and moving on. Fans were already calling it the comeback of the decade. And while Kirk and Jasmine kept defending themselves online, Rasheeda just smiled and stayed silent. Because this time, she wasn't reacting, she was rebuilding. And somewhere deep down, Kirk knew it. That silence he once dismissed was about to become the loudest thing he'd ever hear. The night didn't sleep easy after that confrontation. Rasheeda sat in the quiet of her living room, the TV glowing faintly, replaying old clips from Love and Hip Hop like ghosts on repeat. She watched her own face on screen, laughing, performing, pretending. The laughter felt foreign now. Kirk's voice echoed from those episodes, smooth and familiar, promising everything, meaning nothing. The phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Michelle or Jasmine. It was someone else, a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. Mrs. Frost. The voice was deep, almost polite. This is Dean from Netflix Corporate Communications. I believe you're aware of the recent partnership between Kirk Frost Entertainment and our platform. Rasheeda froze. Aware, she said slowly. No, but I'm listening. The man cleared his throat. We've been advised not to speak publicly yet, but there's been a complication regarding the contractual parties involved. Apparently, one of the executive producers listed was not cleared by our team. Her pulse jumped. And who would that be? Someone named Jasmine Washington. He said, we thought you might know the background there. The line went silent. Rasheeda could barely breathe. Jasmine's name wasn't just on the project. She was listed as an executive producer. After the call ended, Rasheeda stared into space. Everything inside her broke into fragments. Jasmine wasn't just involved. She was in control. By morning, Atlanta was buzzing again. Gossip blogs had screenshots of Jasmine's Instagram stories. She was sipping champagne in a high-rise apartment, a script lying open beside her. The caption read, Netflix check cleared, baby. Comment sections exploded. People tagged Rasheeda nonstop, flooding her feed with fire emojis, crying laughing faces, and fake sympathy. One user wrote, "She took your man in your bag. Double homicide." Rasheeda turned off her phone. She couldn't take the noise anymore. Meanwhile, Kirk was doing interviews. On one podcast, he looked calm, collected, like nothing was wrong. The host asked, "So Kirk, this new Netflix thing, is it true Jasmine's involved?" He smiled faintly. "People talk a lot. The project is about life, growth, forgiveness. And Jasmine's someone who's been through all that. She's got her own story to tell. So she's working with you." The host pressed. "I'm not confirming or denying anything," Kirk said smoothly. "But I'll say this, talent is talent." When Rasheeda saw the clip later, she laughed. A bitter, humorless laugh. "Talent," she whispered. "That's what we're calling betrayal now." She went to the kitchen, poured herself coffee, then stared out the window at the early light creeping over Atlanta. Something in her shifted. She wasn't going to cry again. Not for him. Not for Jasmine. Not for a deal she didn't even sign. Later that afternoon, she drove to Frost Bistro, her restaurant, the one she built from scratch. The employees watched quietly as she walked in, dressed sharp, eyes steady. Her manager whispered, "Boss, you okay?" She smiled. "Never better." She walked straight to the back office, locked the door, and pulled out a notepad. At the top, she wrote, "Rasheeda Frost Productions." Underneath, she wrote in bold letters, "Independent documentary, untold truth." For the first time in months, she felt alive. But the storm wasn't over. That evening, Jasmine went live again. Her followers doubled overnight. The title of her live read, "Clearing the Air, The Real Story." She sat in front of the camera, all glam, confidence dripping from her tone. "People been calling me everything under the sun," she said. "Homewrecker, opportunist, whatever. But let's be real. Netflix don't hand out checks to nobodies. They saw my story, and they wanted it told. Period." Someone in the comments wrote, "But you slept with a married man." Jasmine rolled her eyes. "And y'all still watch Love and Hip Hop, right? Don't act brand new. This industry runs on scandal. I just turned mine into a business." She smirked. "Oh, and Rasheeda, I know you're watching. I'm not your enemy. I'm your reflection. Difference is, I stopped pretending." The live cut off after that, but the damage was done. The clip went viral across Twitter and TikTok. Every gossip page reposted it with headlines like "Jasmine taunts Rasheeda. I'm your reflection. K. Michelle called that night. Girl, I told you, she's dangerous," she said. "But listen, I got something else. My cousin works at the studio." She said Netflix didn't approach Kirk first. They approached Jasmine. She pitched the whole show. Rasheeda's voice went flat. "You sure? Positive?" Kirk just jumped in when he saw the money. That night, Rasheeda didn't sleep. She walked through her house, looking at all the memories that now felt like staged scenes. Every picture frame, every award, every photo of family. By dawn, she packed a bag and left. No announcement, no post. She just drove out of Atlanta, out of the noise until the city was nothing but a memory in the rearview mirror. She ended up in Nashville, staying at a quiet boutique hotel under a different name. For the first time, she didn't have to be Rasheeda the brand. Just a woman trying to breathe. But even peace didn't last long. Kirk showed up 2 days later. She was sitting in the hotel cafe when he walked in, wearing a hoodie and shades like a man hiding from his own life. "You really think you can disappear?" he said softly. She didn't look up. "I thought you'd be busy counting Netflix checks." "You think this was all about money?" he asked. She laughed, cold and sharp. "You tell me. You've been chasing deals since before we had a roof over our heads." He pulled up a chair. "You don't understand. This show could change everything. It's not about her. It's about us, about our story." "Our story," she said. "Then why's she producing it?" He hesitated. That silence told her everything. She stood up. "You lost me a long time ago, Kirk. You just never noticed." He grabbed her wrist gently. "Rasheeda, wait. You walk away now. You're walking away from your own legacy." She pulled her hand free. "No, I'm walking away from the lie you built around it." She left him sitting there, the hum of the cafe swallowing whatever he was about to say next. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Jasmine was on set. Cameras rolled, crew moved around her, and she stood center frame, smiling like she owned the room. The director called out, "Scene 1, take 1." And just like that, Jasmine Washington, once a side story, became the face of Kirk's Netflix empire. But something strange started happening on set. Equipment failed. Schedules got delayed. Arguments broke out between producers. It was as if the whole project was cursed. Rumors spread that someone inside the production was leaking private footage, voice notes, behind-the-scenes drama, even clips of Kirk and Jasmine arguing. No one knew who was responsible, but fans were eating it up. Every leak went viral, pushing the show's hype through the roof. By the end of the week, Netflix had no choice but to fast-track the release. Trailers dropped online with the tagline, "Love, Loyalty, and Lies. The Frost Legacy." Rasheeda saw the trailer while scrolling late at night. The music swelled. Her name flashed across the screen, even though she never gave consent to appear. Her stomach twisted. She paused the video halfway through, then whispered, "So this is how it ends." But she was wrong. It wasn't ending. It was only beginning. 2 days later, a package arrived at her hotel. No return label. Inside, there was a USB drive and a handwritten note that said, "You deserve to know the truth. Play it." She plugged it into her laptop. The screen flickered, then loaded a series of video files, raw behind-the-scenes footage from the Netflix production. In one clip, Kirk and Jasmine were arguing on set. "You promised me final cut," Jasmine hissed. "And you'll get it," Kirk said. "But don't forget who got you in the room. Please," she snapped. "You needed me more than I ever needed you." The argument turned heated. Kirk threw his script down. "You think you made this happen? You were just leverage." The screen went dark. Rasheeda sat there, stunned. That single word, leverage, echoed in her head. Then she smiled faintly. Maybe, just maybe, she could turn all of this into something else. Something bigger than revenge. Something real? Rasheeda didn't sleep that night. The sound of the rain outside the hotel window mixed with the replay of Jasmine's voice in her head. The sharp tone, the arrogance, leverage. That word wasn't just insult, it was confession. Somewhere inside those raw files, there was a truth bigger than what anyone expected. She opened the next clip. It showed Jasmine in a vanity chair, mic still on after shooting. She was laughing with one of the makeup artists. "Girl, Kirk think he running this? He don't even know half the story. I'm just letting him play boss till the check clears." The makeup artist asked, "You serious?" Jasmine smirked. "Baby, I've been serious since 2017. He had me out here looking crazy. But look at me now. Netflix money, producer credit, my own trailer. If that's revenge, then I'm the villain, and I'm good with it." The clip ended with her blowing a kiss toward the mirror. Rasheeda stared at the frozen image. She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. She just whispered, "You played the wrong one." By morning, she had already called her lawyer. "I want a full legal review," she said. "My image, my likeness, anything using my name or marriage, I want control." Her lawyer hesitated. "Rasheeda, you realize that could spark a public war." She smiled. "Then let's make it worth watching." Within 24 hours, a cease-and-desist letter landed at Netflix headquarters. Someone leaked it, of course. TMZ posted the headline, "Rasheeda Frost moves to block husband's Netflix release amid scandal." Fans split instantly. Half supported her, half accused her of jealousy. Hashtags trended for days. Hashtag Team Rasheeda. Hashtag Team Jasmine. Hashtag Frostgate. Memes flooded every corner of social media. Kirk stayed quiet at first, but silence only made the rumors louder. Finally, he broke it. He went live on Instagram, sitting in his studio with his head down like a man rehearsing regret. "I know people saying I betrayed my wife," he began. "But what y'all don't see is the bigger vision. This project ain't about scandal. It's about redemption. About how two people can fall apart and still build something lasting." The comments were brutal. One user wrote, "Redemption. Bro, you cheated and gave her producer credit. That's not redemption. That's chaos." Another said, "You didn't build love. You built content." And then Jasmine joined his live. Her profile popped up on the screen, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Hey Kirk," she said, "since we're being honest, you forgot to mention who really pitched the show." He froze. "Jasmine, this ain't the time." She laughed. "Oh, it's the perfect time. Netflix came to me after my podcast blew up. I brought them the idea, the outline, everything. You just showed up once the cameras were rolling." The live went insane. Over 200,000 viewers in minutes. Kirk's face drained of color. "That's not how it went." "Sure," Jasmine said. "Keep telling yourself that. You're good at rewriting history." And then she ended the call. Rasheeda watched from her hotel room. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The truth was unfolding by itself. Later that week, her lawyer called back. "We've got leverage," he said, unknowingly using the same word Jasmine had mocked. "Netflix doesn't want bad press. They're open to mediation. If you agree to appear in a separate docusource your own version, they'll buy it. She thought for a moment. My version, your story, your control, total creative freedom. They'll title it whatever you want. She closed her eyes, then said, tell them I'll do it. But I want final cut. That was the moment everything changed. A few weeks later, cameras followed her again, but this time, on her terms. The crew was small, quiet, respectful. No fake drama. No producers whispering prompts. Just raw truth. The working title was The Frost Aftermath. The first scene opened with Rasheeda walking through Frost Bistro, the empty tables glowing under dim lights. She said softly, people love to talk about the mess. They forget about the rebuild. Audiences felt it. When the trailer dropped, it hit 10 million views in 48 hours. Fans flooded comments with heart emojis and apologies. People started switching sides again. And Jasmine, she wasn't having it. She posted a story the same night, holding a glass of wine, captioned, so now she wanna act like the victim. Cute. K. Michelle jumped in publicly, commenting under one post, nah. Jasmine, you took it too far this time. Their back and forth spiraled into chaos. Screenshots, subtweets, interviews, everyone had an opinion. The internet turned into a battlefield. Netflix executives tried to keep control, but the audience had already chosen its next obsession. People weren't just watching the show, they were watching the war around it. Inside Netflix headquarters, an emergency meeting was held. Kirk sat at one end of the table, Jasmine at the other. The head of production said flatly, we have two projects under the same brand fighting for dominance. It's killing the image. We need resolution or one of you walks. Jasmine crossed her arms. I'm not walking. Kirk leaned forward. Then maybe I will. You. Jasmine laughed. You don't walk from the spotlight, you live in it. Not this time, he said quietly. Maybe the world's tired of me. She blinked, caught off guard. For a brief moment, the arrogance cracked. But before anything else could be said, the door opened. Rasheeda walked in. Everyone froze. Even Kirk looked stunned. She wore a plain black outfit, no makeup, hair tied back, just calm power. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm here to finish. The Netflix executive nodded. Mrs. Frost, we didn't expect, don't call me that, she said evenly. Not today. She set a USB drive on the table. This is your real story. Raw footage, unedited. The world deserves to see it. You can air it next to their fiction, or instead of it. Your choice. The executive leaned forward. And what exactly is on this drive? The truth, she said. The kind you can't script. And with that, she left the room. The footage leaked before Netflix could decide. Within hours, clips appeared online showing Kirk and Jasmine's fights, the staged scenes, the lines fed by producers. The internet exploded again. Hashtags shifted overnight. Hashtag justice for RASHEEDA. Hashtag Netflix lied. Hashtag exposed footage. Kirk tried to deny it. Jasmine tried to downplay it. But the clips were undeniable. Their whole production looked fake, rehearsed, soulless. For the first time, the public turned on Jasmine completely. Brand deals dropped. Followers She posted a shaky story crying in her car, saying, I didn't mean for it to go this far. But the damage was irreversible. Kirk released a statement days later. It wasn't polished. It wasn't defensive. It was just tired. To my wife, to my family, and to everyone watching, I lost sight of what mattered. I thought success would fix what love broke. I was wrong. It didn't fix anything, but it quieted the storm. Rasheeda didn't respond publicly. She didn't need to. Her new docuseries premiered a week later and shattered streaming records. Critics called it raw, haunting, a masterclass in survival. In the final episode, she looked straight into the camera and said, people ask if I forgave him. Forgiveness ain't about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself from the weight someone else put on you. The audience fell silent. That line went viral across every platform. People quoted it, tattooed it, turned it into songs. And yet, even after the success, she stayed quiet. No red carpets, no interviews. She went back to her life, smaller, calmer, honest. But one night, weeks later, as she closed the restaurant, she found an envelope slipped under the door. Inside was a note written in Kirk's handwriting. It said, thank you for saving me from myself. I'll spend the rest of my life earning that grace. There was no signature, just silence. She folded the note, tucked it into her purse, and locked the door behind her. The neon sign outside flickered softly, spelling Frost Bistro against the night sky, a name that still carried history, pain, and a strange kind of peace. In another part of Atlanta, Jasmine scrolled through her phone alone. Her notifications were dead quiet now. She opened Instagram, stared at the empty comments section, and whispered, "Guess the world finally moved on." The irony wasn't lost on her. Fame had a short memory. Back at Netflix, executives moved forward with a new plan. They announced a limited docuseries combining both stories, the rise, the fall, and everything between. Only one line appeared in the trailer: "Every empire collapses from within." The release date trended instantly. The audience was ready for one last chapter. And somewhere, watching quietly from her living room, Rasheeda smiled. Not because she won, but because she survived. The night before the docuseries premiere, Rasheeda couldn't sleep. She sat in the quiet of her living room, the city lights spilling through the window, reflecting off the polished floor. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the leaks, the manipulation, the contracts sat heavy in her chest. But for the first time in months, it felt controlled. She had survived, she had fought, and now she had the final say. She scrolled through the social media pages dedicated to Kirk, Jasmine, and Michelle, watching the tension simmer and the fans argue endlessly. A storm she no longer needed to ride. Her phone buzzed a message from her lawyer confirming that the Netflix release was set for tomorrow evening. The trailer had been dropped, and previews had already gone viral. The trailer showed flashes of Kirk and Jasmine arguing on set, Rasheeda's quiet moments of reflection, and intercut clips of the staged scenes that had made her life feel like a nightmare. The music swelled, her words echoed, and in those 30 seconds, the world had already taken sides. She smiled faintly, a controlled, almost imperceptible smile, knowing that her silence would speak louder than any post, any tweet, any public confrontation. She poured herself a cup of coffee, sat back in her chair, and whispered, "Let them watch. Let them see the truth." At the same time, thousands of miles away, Kirk was pacing in his office, staring at the incoming analytics reports showing millions of trailer views. The hashtag Justice for Rasheeda trending globally. The backlash starting to form in the comment sections. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated and tired. Jasmine was on a live feed with Michelle, laughing, rehearsing a pre-planned narrative for fans, trying to spin the story in their favor. But every time she mentioned her own control over the show, viewers responded with disbelief and anger. Memes popped up, video edits comparing the leaked raw footage with the official show clips, fans dissecting each line of dialogue, each glance, each moment of tension. The internet had turned into a courtroom, and Rasheeda was the silent judge. By morning, articles had been published from every major outlet, calling the docuseries a masterclass in surviving betrayal and praising Rasheeda for her restraint and resilience. The lines between reality and fiction blurred as people debated what was staged and what was real. She spent the day preparing herself, reviewing her own footage, making notes on what she wanted emphasized, what moments mattered most. She didn't want revenge. She wanted clarity, truth, and control. Meanwhile, Kirk and Jasmine held a private meeting, trying to strategize how to counter the narrative, how to salvage their reputations. They argued quietly but heatedly, tension simmering beneath their attempts at calm. "You can't stop her from telling her story," Kirk said. "I know, but we can frame it differently," Jasmine replied, tapping on her tablet furiously. "People will believe the narrative we present first. We just need the first impression." "First impression," Kirk snapped, exhausted. "She already owns the truth. Nothing we do will change that now." The meeting ended with no resolution, only tension. That evening, as the premiere approached, Rasheeda walked onto the set for her own promotional footage. The studio was quiet, lights dimmed, cameras focused. She spoke directly into the lens, her voice calm, precise, carrying every ounce of the weight she had endured. "I know a lot of people have their opinions," she said, "and some of those opinions have been loud, unfair, and painful. But this story isn't about blame. It's about survival. It's about reclaiming your narrative when everyone else tries to write it for you." The crew watched silently, moved, the emotion palpable. She continued, "I don't need anyone's forgiveness. I only need the truth to be seen. And tonight, that truth will finally speak." Cut to Kirk and Jasmine watching the premiere from separate locations. Kirk's jaw was tight, his hands clenched around a glass of water, his face pale under the glow of the television. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, scrolling through the rising live comments. Her usual smirk gone, replaced by an unspoken tension. Every view, every like, Every comment painted the world with Rasheeda's voice, and it was louder than anything they could control. The first episode aired, showing the raw footage, the unfiltered arguments, the private moments, and Rasheeda's quiet reflection. The audience was hooked instantly. Millions binge-watching, sharing clips, dissecting every second. Twitter exploded, Facebook threads filled with passionate debates, and YouTube reactions skyrocketed. Every outlet labeled it a cultural phenomenon, a story of empowerment, betrayal, and ultimate survival. Late into the night, Rasheeda sat alone, exhausted but satisfied. She had done what she set out to do. She had told her story. The world had seen her strength, her intelligence, her poise. For the first time in months, she felt peace. She looked at her reflection in the dark window, the city lights twinkling behind her, and whispered, "This is mine." As the docuseries continued to unfold, Rasheeda's presence became the center of attention. Interviews, clips, and fan reactions dominated social media. Every frame of her calm, controlled demeanor contrasted sharply with Kirk and Jasmine's increasingly erratic public appearances. The first episode's success was staggering, but it was only the beginning. She spent the following days reviewing footage, making subtle adjustments, approving edits that highlighted not just the betrayal she endured but the resilience she displayed. Meanwhile, Kirk appeared on morning shows and late-night interviews, his attempts to explain his side coming across as defensive, almost hollow. "I didn't realize the impact," he said in one interview, rubbing the back of his neck nervously, "but everyone has a perspective. I just wish the world could see the context." Clips of his statements circulated endlessly online, juxtaposed against Rasheeda's composed voice, explaining the real story. Jasmine, desperate to regain some control, started a social media blitz posting glamorous behind-the-scenes shots, captions dripping with confidence, trying to spin the narrative. Fans, however, were quick to notice inconsistencies. Leaks of her arguments with Kirk resurfaced, screenshots from past live feeds, comments that contradicted her current image, and suddenly, the public began to shift. Hashtags like #Jasmine, exposed, and #Frostwind started trending alongside "Who's Stacey?" The pressure on Kirk mounted. He found himself in endless meetings with Netflix executives, strategists, and lawyers, all discussing damage control. Every new clip or reaction posted online felt like another blow. He tried to reach out to Rasheeda directly through emails and messages, but she ignored them. She had learned the power of silence and timing, and she wielded it like a weapon. By midweek, fans noticed a subtle shift. Rasheeda's calm and deliberate tone made her appear untouchable. She didn't need to fight publicly. The footage did all the talking. Michelle, who had been quietly supporting Rasheeda behind the scenes, began posting subtle nods of support online. Clever tweets that didn't directly name anyone but clearly referenced the resilience displayed in the docuseries. Jasmine noticed the tide turning and panicked, posting stories that appeared confident but came across as forced, desperate to recapture the attention she once commanded. Kirk, watching the ratings skyrocket for Rasheeda's docuseries, realized too late that his attempts to mediate or spin the story had no effect. The public had already chosen their hero. Meanwhile, Rasheeda herself was preparing for the second episode, which would dive deeper into the financial manipulation and the staged moments orchestrated by Kirk and Jasmine. She carefully reviewed each scene, making sure the narrative flowed naturally, without sensationalizing or exaggerating unnecessarily. She wanted authenticity to speak louder than drama, and it did. When the second episode aired, the response was instantaneous. Viewers were captivated by her composure, her insight, and her ability to articulate betrayal without malice. Comments poured in. "She's a queen. This is real storytelling. I respect her so much." Even mainstream news outlets praised the series for its raw honesty and depth. The ratings continued to climb, and the clips of Kirk and Jasmine's reactions were dissected endlessly. Kirk's face on camera, pale and tense, became a meme for panic and regret. Jasmine's forced confidence was analyzed frame by frame, her every gesture critiqued by a public that had fully turned against her. Inside the Netflix offices, meetings were tense. Executives debated whether to continue promoting Kirk and Jasmine alongside Rasheeda or to separate the branding entirely. Some argued that the scandal itself would drive more viewers. Others worried about backlash. Kirk and Jasmine sat in a corner, hushed voices, arguing quietly. "We need a new strategy," Kirk muttered. "We can't let her own story outshine us." Jasmine snapped back. "Then maybe we don't deserve the spotlight anymore. She's winning this without even trying." Meanwhile, Rasheeda maintained her distance, staying out of public discourse outside the docuseries, focusing only on her creative control. She appeared at select interviews, each time calm/poised, exuding confidence, but never attacking anyone directly. The audience admired her restraint and maturity. The contrast between her measured responses and Kirk and Jasmine's increasingly erratic statements made the story even more compelling. As the third episode approached, leaks of private footage from the previous seasons of Love and Hip Hop began surfacing online. Seemingly from anonymous sources within the production, viewers were enthralled, dissecting old moments with new insight. Realizing how much manipulation had gone unnoticed for years, Rasheeda watched the reactions quietly from her hotel room, sipping tea, smiling faintly at the chaos. Knowing she had orchestrated none of it, her restraint and honesty were fueling the drama. The third episode's premiere night was historic. It hit viewership numbers no one expected, trending worldwide. Twitter and TikTok were flooded with reactions, clips, and analysis. Fans praised Rasheeda for her courage, her ability to reclaim her narrative, and her refusal to stoop to petty arguments. Meanwhile, Kirk tried one last public statement, a live broadcast meant to explain his side, but it fell flat. Viewers compared his awkward delivery to Rasheeda's composed and powerful appearances, making the disparity even more striking. Jasmine, desperate to regain control, posted story after story, attempting to spin clips, but the public ignored her. Memes comparing her to Rasheeda went viral. Even celebrities weighed in, publicly supporting Rasheeda's courage and authenticity. By the end of the week, it was clear, Rasheeda had taken control of the narrative entirely. She had reclaimed her life, her story, and her power. The final episodes of the docuseries promised more revelations, deeper insights into manipulation, betrayal, and the resilience required to survive public and personal scandal. And through it all, Rasheeda remained quiet, controlled, untouchable, allowing the story and the footage to speak louder than any post, any interview, any statement from Kirk or Jasmine. The public had chosen their hero, and it was her. Quietly, confidently, and undeniably. The momentum didn't stop. As the fourth episode approached, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Rasheeda stayed off social media entirely, letting her docuseries do the talking while the world speculated endlessly about her next move. Fans, critics, and influencers dissected every scene from the previous episodes, replaying her words, analyzing her expressions, comparing her composure with Kirk and Jasmine's unraveling presence. Everywhere you looked, hashtag Justice for Rasheeda was trending alongside commentary about manipulation, betrayal, and empowerment. Kirk tried to respond with another live feed, this time in a more polished studio setup, but it came across as rehearsed, his words failing to land against the raw, authentic voice of Rasheeda. Jasmine, growing increasingly frustrated, began posting behind-the-scenes clips on Instagram, highlighting glamorous moments, trying to shift attention. But audiences were uninterested. They were invested in Rasheeda's story, not manufactured appearances. Meanwhile, Netflix executives observed the ratings spike and debates over marketing strategy continued behind closed doors. Some argued to feature Kirk and Jasmine alongside Rasheeda to capitalize on the scandal. Others recommended distancing them entirely. It became clear that Rasheeda's authenticity was the primary draw. She maintained control over every aspect of her appearances in the docuseries, what scenes were shown, which questions she answered in interviews, and how her narrative was framed. This allowed her to build an image of power, grace, and resilience that resonated with millions. The fourth episode revealed deeper insights into Kirk's manipulation and Jasmine's opportunistic behavior, using juxtaposed footage to highlight how carefully Rasheeda had been sidelined over the years. The audience was captivated, shocked, and inspired, praising her intelligence, restraint, and strategic thinking. Clips from the episodes went viral immediately. Fans spliced footage from the docuseries with older Love and Hip Hop scenes to illustrate the stark contrast between Rasheeda's honesty and the deception of Kirk and Jasmine. K. Michelle posted subtle endorsements online, supporting Rasheeda without naming anyone, further amplifying the message. The public continued to dissect and debate every frame, turning the docuseries into a cultural phenomenon. Memes comparing Rasheeda's calm authority to Kirk's flustered interviews proliferated, and commentary about Jasmine's forced confidence flooded every platform. By now, major news outlets covered the story, interviewing fans, analysts, and even former cast members. Everyone seemed to agree, Rasheeda had reclaimed the narrative entirely. Meanwhile, Rasheeda herself remained quiet, living her life, preparing for the final episodes, and ensuring that her story remained consistent, truthful, and powerful. She worked closely with her production team, making sure that every scene reflected the reality she had experienced, the betrayals, the manipulation, the personal growth, and ultimately, the empowerment she had earned. In private, she reflected on the journey that had led her here, the fights, the arguments, the heartbreak, and the chaos. She thought about Kirk's repeated denials, Jasmine's arrogance, the media frenzy, the leaks, and the endless speculation. She understood that her silence had been her greatest tool, and her ability to remain composed and strategic had turned the tide entirely in her favor. The audience could sense it. Every reaction, every comment, every viral clip confirmed her growing dominance in the narrative. Kirk and Jasmine's attempts to reclaim control failed spectacularly, exposing their desperation and contrasting starkly with Rasheeda's mastery of her own story. As the fourth episode concluded, viewers were left on the edge of their seats, eager for the final chapters, speculating about what revelations Rasheeda might reveal next. The docuseries became a global sensation, dominating streaming charts, social media trends, and watercooler conversations. Celebrities weighed in, analysts debated, and the public couldn't get enough. Rasheeda had transformed from the woman caught in a personal and professional storm into a symbol of strength, resilience, and empowerment. She had shown the world how to reclaim a narrative, maintain dignity in the face of betrayal, and turn adversity into influence. She had orchestrated everything with precision, patience, and intelligence. And as the final episodes loomed, the suspense reached its peak. Fans speculated endlessly about Kirk's and Jasmine's reactions, the ultimate fallout, and whether any reconciliation or closure would occur. The public's fascination grew, not because of scandal alone, but because Rasheeda had demonstrated that grace and strategy could outlast chaos and opportunism. The docuseries, the social media storm, and the viral commentary all converged to create an unstoppable narrative, with Rasheeda at its center. She had proven that authenticity, restraint, and intelligence could command attention, respect, and loyalty in a world addicted to drama, gossip, and sensationalism. The final episode promised answers, revelations, and closure, but more importantly, it solidified Rasheeda's status as a figure of power and control, a master of narrative, and an inspiration for anyone navigating betrayal and adversity. By now, it was clear that the story wasn't just about personal betrayal or professional deception. It was a study in strategy, resilience, and the ability to reclaim one's own destiny in a world that constantly tries to rewrite it. And as Rasheeda prepared quietly for the final chapter, she understood that the real victory was not just in the docuseries, the viral reactions, or the ratings, but in the peace, control, and empowerment she had reclaimed for herself, a triumph no scandal, leak, or betrayal could ever undo. The anticipation for the final episode reached a fever pitch. Fans, critics, and influencers across every platform were glued to their screens, analyzing every trailer, every leaked clip, every teaser. The internet was alive with speculation, debates, and predictions. Rasheeda.com and Composed reviewed the final edits one last time, ensuring her voice, her story, and her perspective were front and center. She didn't need to exaggerate. The raw truth was far more compelling than anything fabricated. The premiere night arrived, and millions of viewers tuned in simultaneously. The opening scenes were haunting, showing the aftermath of betrayals, the fractured relationships, and the subtle manipulations that had gone unnoticed for years. Rasheeda's voiceover carried the weight of her journey, calm yet authoritative, and the audience felt every word. Kirk and Jasmine's reactions were intercut with her narration, his pale, nervous expressions, her desperate attempts at control, all juxtaposed against Rasheeda's poise and clarity. The contrast was striking, undeniable. The public responded immediately, flooding social media with praise for Rasheeda's intelligence, resilience, and grace. Hashtags like #QueenOfTruth, #JusticeForRasheeda, and #FrostWinds dominated trending lists worldwide. The docuseries wasn't just entertainment, it became a cultural moment, a study in power, manipulation, and survival. As the episode progressed, the most explosive revelations were revealed: Jasmine's orchestrations, Kirk's repeated denials, and the subtle but calculated ways both had attempted to control the narrative. The audience was captivated, outraged, and inspired all at once. Each scene was dissected, memes proliferated, and commentary surged, cementing Rasheeda's status as the undisputed center of the story. She maintained her calm throughout, never raising her voice, never showing anger, only presenting the truth with precision and elegance. Even Michelle's subtle support was highlighted, showing that not all alliances were broken, that loyalty and integrity still mattered. Kirk and Jasmine attempted to respond publicly, but their statements fell flat. Overshadowed by Rasheeda's compelling presence and the undeniable evidence presented in the series, viewers were enthralled, feeling as though they had witnessed an entire emotional arc condensed into the episode's betrayal, confrontation, empowerment, and ultimate control. The final minutes of the docuseries were haunting. Rasheeda, speaking directly into the camera, reflected on what she had endured, the choices she had made, and the lessons she had learned. "I've learned that silence is powerful, that restraint is strength, and that reclaiming your narrative is the ultimate victory," she said. The words resonated across platforms, shared, quoted, and celebrated by millions. The closing montage showed her returning to her life, quiet but commanding, a symbol of resilience. Kirk and Jasmine were left in the shadows, their attempts at manipulation exposed, their public images tarnished. The final frames were silent, powerful, leaving viewers reflecting on the journey they had witnessed, the deception uncovered, and the power of one woman reclaiming control in a world obsessed with drama. By the end of the night, streaming numbers shattered records, social media exploded, and the conversation shifted entirely from scandal and betrayal to strategy, empowerment, and truth. Rasheeda had not only survived the chaos but had turned it into a triumph, a lesson in patience, precision, and personal power. She didn't celebrate publicly. She didn't need to. Her victory was measured in control, in dignity, and in the unshakable respect she had earned from millions of viewers worldwide. The docuseries became a reference point in entertainment media, a blueprint for how to reclaim a narrative, how to maintain integrity under pressure, and how to turn adversity into undeniable authority. As the credits rolled, the internet erupted with commentary, speculation, and admiration. Celebrities, analysts, and fans alike discussed the implications, the lessons, and the sheer brilliance of Rasheeda's strategy. Kirk and Jasmine faded from the spotlight, their public personas overshadowed by the undeniable force of her story. Yet Rasheeda remained quiet, reflective, and composed. She had reclaimed her life, her narrative, and her power. And in the quiet of her apartment that night, as she looked out at the city lights, she allowed herself a small, private smile. The storm had passed, the battle was over, and she had emerged not just unbroken, but stronger, wiser, and in complete control. The final episode didn't just conclude a story, it cemented a legacy. Millions of viewers would remember the lessons, the revelations, and the poise that Rasheeda had displayed throughout. Understanding that power wasn't about yelling the loudest or manipulating the narrative, it was about owning your truth, staying composed, and letting the world see the real story. And with that, the main body of the saga concluded, leaving fans breathless, inspired, and eagerly waiting for what the next chapter of the story, if any, might bring. As the final credits of the docuseries rolled across screens worldwide, viewers sat in stunned silence, processing the journey they had witnessed. Rasheeda's story had not just entertained, it had captivated, inspired, and challenged perceptions. She had taken the chaos, the betrayal, and the manipulation and transformed it into a narrative of empowerment and resilience. The internet buzzed with commentary, threads exploded with analysis, and hashtags like Justiça for Rasheeda, hashtag Queen of Truth, and hashtag Frostwinds continued to dominate trending lists. Viewers debated, replayed clips, and dissected every moment. From the private confrontations to the quiet, powerful reflections that Rasheeda shared so masterfully, Kirk and Jasmine, once central to the drama, now existed in the shadow of her triumph. Their attempts to control or manipulate the narrative exposed and widely recognized as futile, yet Rasheeda remained calm, unshaken. Proof that true power lies not in reaction but in deliberate action and control over one's story. The lessons were clear. Silence can be a weapon, restraint a shield, and reclaiming your narrative the ultimate victory. Fans, young and old, across the globe, resonated with her journey, sharing personal stories of overcoming adversity, finding strength in authenticity, and standing firm in the face of chaos. The docuseries had become more than entertainment. It was a movement, a study in strategy, resilience, and the quiet yet undeniable force of integrity. And now, as the story concludes on screen, the question remains for viewers: what would you do if your world turned upside down? Would you react impulsively, or would you find your strength, reclaim your voice, and take control as Rasheeda did? We invite you to share your thoughts, your reactions, and your own experiences in the comments below. Like the video if Rasheeda's story inspired you. Subscribe to stay updated on the most shocking, powerful, and captivating stories the entertainment world has to offer. And hit the notification bell so you never miss a single moment of drama, truth, and revelation. Your opinion matters, and this community thrives on discussion, debate, and shared reactions, so don't hold back. Tell us which moment shocked you the most, who you think misplayed their hand, and whether you believe the ultimate victory truly belonged to Rasheeda, Kirk, or Jasmine. Your voice adds to the conversation, turning viewers into participants, witnesses into analysts, and audiences into a living record of this extraordinary saga. As you engage, remember that every comment, like, and share fuels the narrative, bringing these stories to life and letting the world see the full picture. Rasheeda's story reminds us that no matter the betrayal, no matter the chaos, your integrity, your control, and your resilience can turn any storm into triumph. And as you reflect, discuss, and share, keep watching, because the world of entertainment is always evolving, always dramatic, and always ready to surprise. Stay with us, stay engaged, and let your reactions become part of the history of this unforgettable saga. Rasheeda's triumph was earned, witnessed, and celebrated. Now it's your turn to weigh in, to participate, and to let your voice be heard. Like, subscribe, comment, and join the millions who have experienced this journey, proving that in a world full of chaos, the truth, control, and courage will always stand out, always endure, and always inspire. They've just witnessed a story that transcended ordinary drama and became a masterclass in resilience, strategy, and self-empowerment. Rasheeda's journey wasn't just about surviving betrayal or exposing manipulation, it was about reclaiming her voice, taking control of a narrative that had been written over her for years, and proving that composure and intelligence can outweigh chaos and spectacle. Every frame, every subtle glance, every measured word she spoke resonated with millions of viewers worldwide, and the impact is undeniable. Now it's your moment to reflect, to engage, and to become part of the conversation that Rasheeda's story has ignited. We want to hear from you. What moment left you breathless? What revelation shocked you to your core? And which choice or strategy would you have adopted in her place? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share your reactions with friends, and debate with others, because this story isn't just on screen, it lives in the minds and conversations of everyone who experienced it. If Rasheeda's calm mastery inspired you, hit the like button and let the world know that integrity and resilience matter more than drama, manipulation, or empty bravado. Subscribe to our channel to stay connected to the most gripping, shocking, and empowering stories in entertainment, because each story we share carries lessons, revelations, and moments that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Don't just watch passively. Engage, reflect, and participate. Your voice matters, your opinion counts, and your insights add depth to the global discussion. Ring the notification bell to never miss a single update, a single twist, or a single revelation, and be part of a community that celebrates courage, authenticity, and the reclaiming of power. Think about Rasheeda's restraint when faced with lies. Think about her strategy when dealing with manipulation. And think about the difference between reacting impulsively and responding intentionally. And consider how those lessons might apply to your own life, your own challenges, and your own moments of adversity. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that control, dignity, and intelligence will always command respect. That patience can be a weapon, and that true power lies not in loud words or angry confrontations, but in the measured reclaiming of your story. Engage with others in the comments, debate the moments you agree with, analyze the strategies Rasheeda used, and imagine alternate outcomes for Kirk, Jasmine, and Michelle. Let your observations fuel the discussion, inspire others, and turn passive viewing into active participation. Consider every twist, every reveal, every subtle glance that shifted perception, and ask yourself, what would you have done differently, and what would you have done the same? Let your insights become part of this unfolding cultural conversation. Because stories like these are bigger than entertainment, they're lessons in resilience, in strategy, and in the courage to reclaim your life. And as you watch, reflect, and comment, remember that each click, each like, and each share amplifies the story, gives voice to the lessons learned, and allows the ripple effect of Rasheeda's triumph to extend far beyond the screen. This isn't just a it's a movement, a case study in empowerment, and a challenge to anyone who has faced deception, betrayal, or manipulation in their own lives. As you engage, think critically, speak openly, and participate fully. Your contributions shape the narrative just as much as the footage on screen. Remind your friends to watch, to discuss, to analyze, and to respect the journey that Rasheeda undertook. Every view contributes to the collective understanding of the story. Every comment deepens the conversation, and every share expands the impact of her triumph. As we reflect on what unfolded, the question remains: who wins when the truth is finally allowed to speak? The answer is clear, yet open to discussion, and your opinion adds richness to the dialogue. Remember, Rasheeda's strength wasn't in fighting louder, it was in standing taller within her own story, in letting authenticity command the room, and in demonstrating that patience, composure, and integrity will always outlast manipulation, theatrics, and chaos. Now is your chance to engage, to share, to debate, and to celebrate not just the drama you watched, but the lessons you learned. Comment below with your favorite moment, your analysis of each character, and your reflections on the strategies that defined this saga. Like this video if Rasheeda's journey inspired you, if her courage empowered you, and if her composure reminded you that real strength is often quiet, deliberate, and controlled. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss a single episode, a single reveal, or a single extraordinary story that challenges, entertains, and empowers. Share this story with your friends, family, and anyone who might benefit from witnessing resilience in action, who might learn the value of reclaiming their narrative, and who might find hope in the quiet power of strategy over chaos. Engage fully, reflect honestly, and let your voice become part of the global conversation, because every comment, every like, and every share strengthens the community, amplifies the lessons, and ensures that the story of Rasheeda, Kirk, Jasmine, and Michelle will continue to inspire, teach, and entertain for years to come. The story doesn't end here. Your participation extends its reach, your engagement ensures its impact, and your reflections honor the journey that unfolded. So act now. Comment, like, subscribe, share, discuss, and join millions around the world who have witnessed this saga, celebrated the triumph of truth and strategy, and taken part in a conversation that goes far beyond the screen. Remember, in a world full of noise, Rasheeda's story reminds us that authenticity, composure, and deliberate action are the ultimate victory. And now it's your turn to amplify that message, share those lessons, and take part in this unforgettable narrative that will stay with you long after the final credits fade.